Well, hey there, and Merry Christmas season, Pastor Jerry, Samaritan's Heart Mission Church. Hope you are doing well today. So I have a question to start. What if everything you think you know about Christmas is wrong, except for the part where Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, as a baby comes to earth, fully God, fully man, to save us from sin, forgive our sins, save us from the entity of sin, and have eternity with him and the grace in the here and now. Okay, that's real. That's real, and that the cradle and the cross need to go together. Jesus came to die on the cross. Okay, all that's real. But what if the fine print has gotten a little fuzzy over the centuries? Well, we're going to cover that today and why it is and isn't important. The truth about Christmas then and now, part 2. Mike started us off with part 1 last week, or how I can wreck your nativity scene in a few easy steps. Actually, Mike started that process last week when he kicked off the truth about Christmas then and now and what it does mean for us with the Magi and a lot of misconceptions. Actually, Mike already wrecked your nativity scene with the Magi. When you have a nativity scene with the 3 wise men are right there. That's not the case. Mike walked through that last week. Today, what I'm going to take up is then, no room at the inn. Okay, that's what we've heard. Back then, there was this lodging place, this establishment, and there was no room. Well, or is it really, we'll just get right to cut to the chase here. Is it no room at the guest room? Was there really a lodging with someone who owned an establishment? Or was it something very different? And then, okay, if we start there, was Jesus born in a manger in a stable? It's complicated, so let's try to uncomplicate it. All evidence which we'll present here, and there's a reason. I always say don't major in the minors, and these are going to sound like minors, but there's a reason that we share these with you, because to clear them up helps to clear the fog and focus on what we really should be focusing on in the Christmas season. So there was likely a manger in a house. You see, the problem is, oftentimes with the Bible, we hear words, we hear phrases, we see things, and we then process them through the prism of our modern 21st century culture and our modern 21st century American culture. For example, all right, this has always appealed to me, the Jesus born in a manger, because I had a very clear mental picture of this. Growing up, once I was 8 years old-ish, I saw mangers every day. What was a manger to me? It was a concrete trough that ran pretty much the length of our barn, and then that ran from north to south, and then it took an east-west turn on the north end of the barn. Okay? And I put silage in it, and I put hay in it, and for whatever reason, I didn't feed the ground feed. My dad did. That, I don't really remember why that was the case, but he did. Probably because they're a little more meticulous in the amount. I mean, we had even for the 1970s, a very outdated farm. And we did a lot of things by hand. So when I was old enough to process that Jesus was born in a manger, all I could picture is, yeah, but our cows are there and they're eating stuff. And how does that work? It was different but similar. What most people believe is that, I have believed over the centuries the way it was written, that Jesus was born in a manger that fed cattle in a stable, in a barn. Only the rich had a stable separate from the house. Common people, that is most of the population, that's not a derogatory term, common people had a house in which animals were kept over on one end of the family's room, a few steps lower. So you would have a living area for human beings, and then you get to one end, and there are stairs, and it goes down to where the animals are, but it's still all the same enclosure. Animals in the house are kept safe from theft, perhaps predators, and provided body heat for everybody else. As I'm sharing this with you, the furnace isn't working in our gathering area. My hands are cold, and I can kind of relate. Where you, I wouldn't, I might put up with a herd of heifers and cows right now if it was keeping this room a little warmer, but that's okay, we'll get through. So mangers could be dug in the family room floor, or it could be built of wood and moved. And so it could be kind of like the manger that we do see in some nativity scenes, a box with the cross legs and that sort of thing. Then we have our first clue. Going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother. That's Matthew 2:11. So now, all right, guest room. So there's family room, and there's the guest room. There was no place for them in the Kataluma, is the Greek word that the Greek physician and gospel writer Luke writes in Luke 2:7. There was no place for them in the Kataluma. Now this has been translated as inn, lodge, but the same Luke, the same writer, in Luke 10:34, when he is sharing Jesus' telling of the parable of the Good Samaritan, Luke writes, the Samaritan brought him to an inn, a pandosion. The pandosion is the word for inn, where he brought the person, okay? So Luke, for an establishment where the Samaritan was taken, for a hotel, a lodge, Luke uses pandosion. For the nativity story, he uses Kataluma for the place where there was no room for them in the Kataluma. Where else do we see Luke with Kataluma? Tell the master of the house, the teacher says to you, where is the guest room? This is at the Last Supper. Where is the Kataluma? So Luke tells us that the Good Samaritan was taken to an inn, a pandosion, but where there was no room for Jesus was a Kataluma, and where the Good Samaritan was taken, an inn was a Kataluma. Or rather, for the Last Supper. For the Last Supper. I'm getting confused here myself. For the Last Supper, it was Kataluma. So, pandosion is where the Good Samaritan was taken. Kataluma for the Last Supper in a house, and for the Nativity. So what really happened then? The Holy Family came to Bethlehem, where they were received into a private room. The child was born, wrapped, and literally put to bed in the living room, in the manger that was either built into the floor or made of wood and moved into the family living space, one of the two. The guest room was already occupied by other guests. The host family graciously accepted Mary and Joseph into the family room of their house. Now, this has happened in my house. We had two children. They're both gone. One, we converted their bedroom into an office. The other, we kept as a guest room. We have a guest room. If we have to, okay, so we put someone in the guest room. Oh, someone else arrives. We didn't see that coming. We could either put up an air mattress in our family room, or if they wanted, they could sleep on the couch in the family room. Think of it in those terms. And we have a fireplace in our family room. Back then, it would have been probably, again, the extended area, a manger. So we are really misunderstanding then, and here's why this is important. Usually these fine little details, does it really matter? It does, because, again, the host family graciously accepted Mary and Joseph into the family room of their house. What did they give them? It's really important. It's important for us. What did they give them? The best available space. That was the best available space. They could have had them stay outside. They could have, sorry. They did the best with what they had. They weren't relegated. Someone was already in the guest room, the Kataluma. They didn't operate a pendochian, an inn, a lodge. So they did the best that they could. Okay, that was then. Everything you know about Christmas then and now. What about now? Do we graciously accept Jesus into the guest room of our hearts? Is our guest room available for Jesus? Or, there are other guests there. I'd really like to give you the best, Jesus, the place in my heart that guides everything I do, everything I think, everything I feel. It's kind of, I'm sorry, it's occupied. Tell you what I will do for you, though, Jesus. You can stay in the family room. I mean, hey, look, if I could, bro, I would, it'd be okay. I'd put you in the guest room. So it's just, okay, think about who and what is in your guest room, in your Kataluma, that there's not room there for Jesus. What's there? Who's there? What is there? Who's there? What is more important to you than Jesus? Who is more important to you than Jesus? Is the guest room filled with things from your past that you really wouldn't want Jesus to see? Maybe it's not occupied with another person. We'll get to that in a moment. It might be. Maybe it's the stuff. It's the stuff from your past. Maybe it's lust. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's resentment. And they're like stacked boxes, and there's no room for Jesus in the best spot in your heart. So then, do we graciously accept him into at least the family room of our hearts? What about that? Do we do that? Or, normally this would work, Jesus, it would. I mean, I got the family room. I'm really sorry the guest room didn't work out, but I got people coming over. And it would be really awkward, I think. They don't know you. I know you know them because you know everybody. So, yeah. But I think they're going to be uncomfortable. I really do. Is that what happens? Jesus, when no one else is around, yeah, it's okay, but it's not like I'm ashamed of you exactly. But I just don't really feel, it's not a good fit. It's not, I mean, you and I can hang some other time, okay? But they're coming and I don't want to tell them, no, it's all set up. Do we do that? We don't have the very best room because of other things that we store in there that are putting distance between God and us. Or people who are from the days before we were saved, and they're perfectly fine people. They're not bad people, but they don't know Jesus, so you accommodate them and not Jesus. 50, 60 people can be here, now, this is a metaphor, of course, and that's people in your life, okay? Or do we relegate him to a manger in a stable and visit him on Sundays? Most Sundays. But he doesn't live with us. He sure isn't in the guest room, the creme de la creme. He's not even in the family room. In our case, we actually do have an outbuilding. Well, I'm not going to leave you out in the cold. It's really the best I can do. But I'll come see you. I will. I want you to really stop and park on that. Is that what it's like? Okay, what does that look like though? Okay, so let's get out of the abstract here and into the concrete. What does it look like when you're not making room, Kataluma room for Jesus, or even living room for Jesus? But he is out in a stable, and it's about a 100-yard walk from the house. So you don't get there as often as you should. What does it look like in real life? What is the truth about Christmas now when it comes to making room for Jesus? Now, obviously, yeah, church, it's glad you're here, wonderful. But that is an outbuilding, and it's not enough. It's not enough room in your heart. So there's alone time with him in the morning. Imagine if you had someone in a guest room. You'd kind of figure out how long they're going to sleep, or, if they come out. All right, what do? I mean, our sister stays with us during the holidays, and she comes out of the bedroom, and hey, I've got a cup of coffee for her, I'm making breakfast, and we start the day together. It's vital that you do that with Jesus. If he's living in your guest room, this isn't going to be very difficult. He's right there. If he's down in the family room, hey, sleep okay? Maybe. Yeah. But if you really spend that morning time with him, sharing your feelings with him, talking to him, praying, getting in his word, and reading others, devotionals, that's huge. That's great. That's high quality time with someone you're treating like a guest because they're in your guest room. And if you got him in the living room right now, what does mornings with Jesus look like? And if he's in an outbuilding, what does that look like? So alone time with him throughout the day. Hey, you got plans today? I don't really have any plans. I'm glad you're staying here. Let's do this. Let's do that. Wherever you go, take Jesus with you. Someone's spending a couple of weeks at your house, you might say, well, we know you don't have time for yourself, but then we'll do some things together. No, Jesus can be with you all the time. But it starts with one, having him in the guest room, then starting that morning, and the time with him throughout the day, and introducing him to others. Hey, have you met my friend Jesus? He's going to be staying with me for a long time in the guest room. Okay? And, I think you two could hit it off. And I'd really like you to get to know. Maybe come over to the house, we'll have dinner, Jesus will be there, it'll be great. Of course, that's a metaphor. You introduce by telling it what Jesus did in your life, that what this time of year really means, it's the cradle and the cross. That he came to die on the cross. And you introduce him to others. And then coming to serve and not be served. Coming to serve and not be served. There's a lot of layers to this one. But church, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, when I say come to serve, that doesn't mean, well, you should be volunteering to do this and that. When your heart is there, you will do those things. But to serve on others, love on others, even if it's just spiritually, even if it's witness, even just being with them. And that you're not coming to church or living your life for a pleasant commercial experience where it's all about you. Truth of the matter, the first century Apostle Paul church wasn't super comfortable. Yeah, we have coffee here. The furnace works most days. I'll get on that first thing Monday morning. But is our heart set where we are, because Jesus is living in the guest room, we have the character of Jesus: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, but that we've also come to serve and not be served. And then we will come to church mission-minded. I know people are going to love on me. I'm going to love on them. And yeah, there may be actual service. Warming in the heart. And it might not be quite as warm in this building tomorrow for warming in the heart. Sunday afternoon, rather, for warming in the heart. But the unhoused come, and for 5 hours, we love them. Okay? That's what it's about. Coming to serve and not be served. If Jesus is living in the best spot in your heart, that's what all of this is going to look like. So now what? Remove the clutter from the Kataluma of your heart. What are you storing in there? What has to go? Christmas season is a wonderful time to take inventory. Okay? It's Christmas, and I'm for sure going to go to church on Christmas Eve. I'm probably, weather providing, it's too cold, I don't know, and I hear the furnace doesn't always work. No. So, what is more important to you? Because whoever that homeowner was, they gave Jesus the best they could. Are you giving Jesus the best space in your heart? What has to go? Let's get just right down to it here. It could be lust. It could be an addiction. It could be anger, envy, regret, shame, guilt. What is it? What is it that is making your life difficult? Deal with it today. Be blessed and be close to God.